innovativeness last longer. They're the ones who have been able to reinvent themselves as time has gone on. They've been able to figure out in a generation how to take a product that they have and morph it into something else, or a service, or even within their distribution channels today. We've seen a lot of families who always went through a traditional distribution, but now with digital technology and the internet, those that have adapted quicker to this and been more innovative in how they've used it have done much better. So we do see now that innovativeness, we haven't fully quantified it yet, but we're working on that. But there tends to be a correlation, at least anecdotally, that this trait ties in with long-term success of family business. So we're testing really this hypothesis. It's kind of an interesting hypothesis, and that is the single strongest predictor of family business financial, so it doesn't count the non-financial side, but the financial value is the degree of innovativeness of the organization. And what that means is that the more innovative you are, the greater the enterprise value will be over time. And innovation, again, has to be defined in different ways, which I'm going to do next. But so far, what studies have shown for public companies that is true. So if you just take an extreme today, who's considered the most innovative company in our country or even the world? Apple. Is that an Apple? How many have an Apple product? How many have an Apple product? Almost everyone in here has an Apple product. Which company has the greatest market value today in the world? Apple. I mean, it's just happened recently, but it does give a sort of an extreme example. Is it a family business? Maybe it was at first, or two family guys started it, but it really isn't a family business. But it does show, from at least an innovative standpoint, how successful they are. Another one in the Midwest, which you probably have heard and used, is 3M, okay, Minnesota Mining Company. Well, they have a goal to have at least 30% of their sales be from new products developed over the last 5 years. So that's a huge cultural signal to everyone in their group that they have to constantly be coming up with new products and finding new things. Well, they also have a very high enterprise value as well. So there's a number of examples of that in the public sector. A little more difficult to figure out in the family sector, but we continue to try to do that through our base of family that we serve, and also through surveys and other devices to try to figure out who's creating the most value and why. So innovation tends to be one of the key reasons. So what the heck is innovation? I said it's an overused term, right? And it's interpreted quite differently by many people. But in its simplest form, innovation is change. It doesn't mean just a new iPad or iPod or a new phone. It really means change. And if we dissect that even a little bit further, it means the development of something new or a new way of doing something. Okay. And then what's been very interesting for us, because we always have these things in family businesses where we're fighting against two different approaches. Many people refer to a paradox of, do we make a family first decision or a business first decision? Meaning, if someone's coming into the business as a family member, even though they don't have their education or experience, do we make a family first decision and let them come into the business? Or do we say no, make a business first decision and say, you must get your experience outside and get your college degree before you come in? Well, that's a paradox we're always fighting. This is a paradox that we didn't realize was there, but it very much is, and that is successful family businesses are both more stable and more innovative. You scratch your head, wow, that's really kind of crazy. And it was a professor at Harvard who did this study and found that over the long term, the companies, and they did it for large companies, we started doing it, looked at it for smaller family businesses. For large companies, they found that if there's this incredible core business and discipline and structure within the company, sort of that stability factor, that gives them the funds to keep plowing into other things. But if they only have that, they're not nearly as successful as those who have that stability, plus who have a really good degree of innovation. They're taking not a huge chunk of those funds that are generated from the core, but a significant amount, anywhere from 5 to 10%, that isn't just plowed into R&D, but is plowed into new geographic markets, new business models, new processes, new employee benefits, things that change. So they have that degree of innovativeness while they're still very stable. So once you get your head around that, it really starts to make sense. And the more we look at family businesses who really are good at keeping their core business stable with constantly coming up with challenging, innovative ideas and then applying them, are more successful. What we do find, though, is sometimes the younger generation comes in with all these new ideas. All of a sudden, the pendulum swings from the core, stable, too much to being innovative. And we've seen some put too much money in new change, and the organization couldn't keep up with it. The funding couldn't keep up with it. So there's a really tight balance. More times than not, though, we've seen families stick too hard to the stable core and not try to do new things. So that's where, and I'm sure everyone in here is somewhere along that continuum of, are you way more stable, or are you way more innovative? Chances are most of you are on the stable core, focus on the core, but how do you get that pendulum just to swing a little bit more over to change, trying different things, particularly in today's environment? So I was mentioning to Dave back there, I was with an economist last week, and he was sharing with a group about this size. He showed a chart where over time we had this nice, relatively nice cycle up and down in the economy. If you're in automotive, real estate, what have you. Actually, real estate always may had ups and downs, but it was always tending to go up. And then about 08, 07, 08, we started seeing these cycles gyrate up and down, high volatility. And it's still doing that. And so the question is, how do we live in transition from that more smooth cyclical approach to the economy or the industry you're in to this more rapid and severe, sharp up and down, almost like a heart monitor, where you get that quick up and down, only this isn't smoothing out yet. It tends to be more volatile continuously. So how do we live in a rapidly changing environment like that day in and day out? Well, it does call for more innovative change management approach to all of our family businesses. Okay, and then there's another concept that we have learned studying family businesses. And a lot of times we take what companies or researchers have done on public companies and see if they can apply to family businesses. Why do you think there's so much research on public companies? Yeah, it's available. That information is accessible. But who creates more GDP for economy? Public or private / family? It's private family by far. But all the information we tend to get is from public companies, so that's okay because they do all the hard research. And what they did here, they found, and then we also found it true for families, that during the, call it the Great Recession or the downturn, a lot of people there's no choice, had to focus on cost. We got to get costs down. But it quickly became apparent to almost everyone in the family businesses that we work with, you can't just cut yourself to prosperity. Yeah, you can cut yourself to survive and get through these downturns, but you're not going to really thrive and make the kind of profits that you need to provide a return to the shareholders and a return to plow more money into the business to have it grow. So it was clear that to survive and grow, there had to be more ways to figure out what you could do to add value to the consumer, the end user, or whoever your customer happens to be. So doing both of these simultaneously is really key. And those families that do it, again, in balance, are more successful. So they got to keep the cutting, but they also have to be developing new ways to add value.